Welcome to Kevin's Garage. I have a really great video for you guys today. This is something that all C4 owners should see and take note of. I'm a really big fan of C4 Corvettes. I've had 4 of them. I currently have 2 of them. But as much as I love these cars, they are like vacuum cleaners. Last week I was driving my silver car to work. I watched a styrofoam cup blow across 3 lanes and the car sucked the cup right up. And then I drive on 4 highways on the way to work, but then there is about a 2-mile section of city that I drive through. I was at like the 3rd light and my cooling fans kicked on and just obliterated this cup that my car had sucked up. As much as I love these cars, they are vacuum cleaners and they do tend to suck stuff up and block up the coolant system. Now, my Silver 85 is a bit of a project car. It only had 50,000 miles on it when I purchased it, but it had sat for 12 years and it was in a state of disrepair. It was leaking oil out of the valve covers. It was leaking coolant. I was having a lot of different issues to address with the car. The window strips needed to be replaced. I do have a video on the channel where I go through everything that I've done with this car. But this coolant issue was continuous. Originally, the overflow tank was leaking, which actually just turned out to be a clamp on the hose. I ordered a new overflow tank, and then once I got the clamp situated, the overflow tank stopped leaking. But I was still having issues with the car occasionally where the water pump would actually leak coolant itself. It was generally something that happened on hot days. And this is what's great about the forums. I went into the 85 group and I posted a thing and I said, hey, I'm having this problem. My car will leak coolant periodically. And one of the members, Fred Sorrell, came back, great guy, and said what you really need to do is take apart your radiator shroud system and clean your radiator out. And I'm not going to lie, I did what you would typically do. I looked at it and it didn't look dirty to me. But here's the problem with this problem. When you look into the fan, that area there, you're seeing the back side of the radiator and it looks decent. It doesn't look dirty. The way the air intake is on the front of the shroud, you can't see the radiators. Now there's 2 radiators there, the engine coolant radiators in the back and the transmission radiator is in the front. If you were to take the air intake system off and get a look into the transmission cooler, again, it's very deceiving because the transmission cooler fins are further apart. So if you get a look at the radiators from the front and the back, they don't look too bad. But because I was having this coolant leak and I was replacing the water pump anyways, I thought, let me check this box, let me listen to what these guys are telling me on the forum, and let me see how these radiators look when I take the shroud off the top and I get them separated. And what I found, oh my God, it was a mess in there. I could not even believe it. This radiator from the backside did not look that bad. And that whole area in there is kind of dark, so you can't see how blocked up the radiators are. But when I took the shroud off of the top and I disconnected the radiator and I took the radiator out and got a look at the front side of it, it was really bad. I mean, there was just pollen completely blocking the whole center section where air should be coming through. There was leaves down inside. I mean, all that stuff is insulation, just holding heat, just stopping air from passing through. This thing was truly a mess. All right, so I just want to go through this real quick. Taking this shroud off is extremely easy. It's really helpful to have a power ratchet, and you want to have some extensions to get down to these bolts. These are all 10s, and then I believe the little ones up top are 6s. Once you have the air cleaner, I already had the air cleaner off because I was doing the water pump. Taking this whole thing off, I don't know, it takes about 10-15 minutes, and that'll get you access to the radiator. Now, the radiator disconnects very easily. So I just want to give you guys an up close on this. Here's the metal hose that screws in right here, like this. And then there's the the large bottom inlet. You can see how easy it is, how much room there is around it. And then there is one more hose down there on the bottom that screws in on the bottom. This hose is very easily accessible on the other side. Loosen a clamp, pop the hose off, and then turn this fitting off and turn this fitting off. I'll probably put some thread sealant when I put these back on, and that's it. Like, you just disconnect those, and the return line was already disconnected because I was doing the water pump, and it just lifts right out of there. There's not a lot to this job. It's very simple. Now this was filled with debris. I just vacuumed it out. Now this transcooler, our radiator is the transcooler, and it is not, its fins are wider, right? So it doesn't really get dirty like the coolant, like the engine radiator does. If you look down in there, you can look right through it with no problem. Now this is the engine radiator here, and this one was filthy, and I mean filthy, and I wish that I could really show you, because when I used the vacuum, I got all the stuff off the surface, the pollen that was on it. And this is the back side. This was the real dirty side, the front side of the radiator. And with the vacuum, I got everything off the surface. I was like, oh wow, that's really good. But when I went and I looked head on like this, and I held the radiator up to the sun, you couldn't see through it. It was just, there was so much stuff in it. But now, you see how you can see right through the radiator? You couldn't see through it like that because there was so much stuff gunking the radiator up. And so I was using my little vacuum here, and I got the surface all clean, but I decided I'd go to the car wash. They have a vacuum that can like suck a golf ball through a garden hose. It's really, really good vacuum. I used that, and it got some of the stuff out of the cracks, but I still wasn't totally satisfied. So I took it over to the wash bay, and I sprayed it with the power washer, and oh my God, what a difference. That was the money. I mean, this stuff just came out of this. I wish I was rolling the camera when I was spraying it, because the water was coming in clean, and it was coming out the back looking like mud. I mean, all this stuff just came out of this radiator. I am 100% sure that this thing is going to cool better. It's not going to stay as hot because it doesn't have all those particulate jammed up in it. Now, drain down here, and I wish I had used that. I didn't. I siphoned it out. So I could have saved myself some time by using this drain. And then there's these, you know, there's screw fittings. It was very easy. It's very easy. This is something, if you're a C4 owner, that you should 100% do. And this car only has 70,000 miles on it. I mean, it is an 85, but I think what's more relevant is the mileage. It only has 70,000 miles on it, and that's how gummed up this thing was. It was pretty bad. I can't wait to take it for a ride after I get it back in. And like I said, it took me all of a half hour to get this shroud off and get the radiator out. And then, you know, I ran it to the car wash. It took me some time, and then I did kind of clean up some parts over here a little bit. So, you know, I would say all in all, set aside 2 hours for this, to just take your time and work your way through it and enjoy the job. It's nothing complicated, and we'll take the car for a ride in a couple of minutes here and see what kind of a difference we get with some different driving conditions. All right, good morning, everybody. We are out at the car, and we are going to take it for a ride and see how it responds to some temperatures. Now, this car is the Doug Nash 4+3, so one of the first things I'm interested to see is when I drive this car to work, the temperature of the engine has to get up to 150 degrees in order to be able to engage the overdrive. So when I start the car up in the morning, it's funny, my commute, like, this car is obviously meant for me. It's right about the time that I'm getting on the on-ramp is about 4 or 5 minutes into my commute. The car is just hitting 150 degrees, and I can shift right into overdrive. It's like perfect timing the way that it works out. So one of the first things I'm interested in seeing after I have put a new water pump in it and cleaned out the radiator is, does the car warm up to operating temperature any differently? I don't think that it will, but it will be interesting to see. I'm not going to make you guys ride along for the whole ride. I'll kind of edit this out. So the first thing I want to see is to just cold start the car and do what I would normally do in my morning routine and drive it the 5 minutes till I get to the on-ramp. and see if it's reached 150 degrees or not. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm not sure. But let's fire it up and take it for a ride. So the other two conditions I want to look at is I want to take a little ride on the highway at full operating temperature. This car generally rides on the highway at full operating temperature about 210 degrees. And then in the city, if I'm driving around in the city, it tends to hover around 230 degrees. But it periodically was leaking coolant out of the water pump. And then after it leaked a little bit of coolant out of the water pump, it would spike up to 240, 245, and 250. And then I would have to, open the system up and replenish it. It would kind of randomly leak from the water pump that was driving all of these problems. So it'll be interesting to see how the new water pump and cleaning out the radiator system is going to affect the temperature. Let's fire it up, take it for a ride, and see what we get. So obviously temperatures are showing low right now. Firing up the car at 2 minutes and 30 seconds of recording. So I'll kind of keep that in the back of my mind for how long the car's been running. Actually got a little condensation on the window here. So when we hit the 7-minute mark, it'll be interesting to see what the temperature is. Three and a half minutes into the drive, and I'm just about to hit the highway entrance, and it's at 150. So it's warming up exactly like it always has. And it let me engage the overdrive. All right, cool. So basically the way the car warmed up has not changed at all. So that's cool. It does seem to be running very good after the tune-up. So I'm going to cruise for a little bit, and then I'll fire this video back up, and we'll see what kind of temperatures this car is getting on the highway. So I'm going to set the cruise control now. We're doing 70 tree miles an hour. I'm going to back it down to 70. 70 fun. Back it down to 70. What we're going to do is we're going to cruise just like this for 5 minutes. Get the car to 100% operating temperature. Now, normally when I would drive the car home from work, or to or home from work, the normal highway operating temperature would be 205 to 210. 205 in the morning, 210 in the evening. So I guess the temperature that we're really comparing it to is about 205. So let's give it 5 minutes, cruise a little, and then we'll see where we're at with the temperatures. Hopefully the sun isn't blinding you guys too bad. Man, is it bright this morning, and of course we're driving. Oh, that's a little bit better. All right, so give me 5 minutes, come back, and we'll see where these temperatures are at.
I should have been a cowboy. I should have learned to ride.
All right, so let's take a look at the operating temperature. This car has been on the highway now for about 9 minutes. We are at 100% operating temperature. It is about 75, 80 degrees outside. Generally with this temperatures, I would be looking at about 208 to 210 degrees normally. Now, after doing the radiator clean out, the oil is at 189. Actually, just click the 190, and the coolant is cooler than the oil. It's 178 degrees. So that's basically about 32 degrees cooler than it would usually be. 32 degrees cooler than it was before it now is while cruising on the highway. That's the difference that the radiator clean out made. So again, at outside air temperature of approximately 80 degrees, the car would run about 210 degrees on the highway. It's now running 178, 32 degrees cooler. Oh my God, what a difference. That is so awesome. I'm so happy with it. Let's jump off the highway and get into the city and see what kind of temperatures we get. Hopefully you guys can still see pretty good. I'm going to hop off here. I'm going to shut off the overdrive. Now what I like to do is just push the clutch in, and while it's in neutral, shut the overdrive off after the car slows down a little bit. So now it's just like a regular 4-speed. This should be a nice shot because we're going away from the sun. So I'm at 53 right now. We're getting on a 65. I'm going into 4th gear now. Now we're at 72. I'm going to slow down to 70. So we're at 70 miles an hour in regular 4th gear. We're at 2,800 RPMs, okay? So just under 3,000 RPMs at 68 miles an hour. We're going to activate the overdrive. Overdrive on comes on. And now at that same speed, we went from just under 3,000 to under 2,000. And that's what this overdrive was all about. It was about making the car operate more efficiently. Now, you can't activate the overdrive on 1st gear. You can activate it on 2nd gear. You can activate it on 3rd gear. I generally don't do that. Although once in a while, if you're in like a 40, you can put it in 3rd gear and then like activate the overdrive, or you can just shift into 4th gear. Now, when you activate the overdrive in 2nd and 3rd, it will not downshift. But when it's in 4th gear and the overdrive is active, if you step on the gas, it will come out of overdrive. The car will take off. When you let off the gas, the overdrive will come back on. See it kick in? Off. Now when I let off the gas, the overdrive kicks back on. We're going to get off and do some city driving here. Look at that. There's Albany. There's the Capitol Plaza. There is the Egg. There's the Four Sisters. There's the Corning Tower. You probably can't see the Corning Tower, but you probably get a nice view of the Egg right now. There's the MVP Arena, which was previously the Pepsi Arena and Anagata DeVita. I don't know. It's had like 5 different names. It was originally the Knickerbocker. It's had a lot of different. It was the Times Union. I think it is. Yeah. Now it's the MVP Arena. I Heart New York. Yeah, it's great. It's really awesome. Let's not get off on that tangent. Oh, pop our headlights up for a minute. I love the pop-up headlights, even though they're not really pop-up. They're rollover headlights. But whatever. They're pop-ups. They're not pop-ups. They're rollovers, but that's okay. So now that I've slowed the transmission down, I'm going to unengage the overdrive. And there we go. It's off. And we can turn these headlights off. And I just want to do some city driving, and we'll take a look at what the temperatures are doing some city driving. So the car just hit 204 degrees. We're driving in the city, and the first fan kicked on. And that is after 3 minutes of driving in the city. The infamous waterworks. Interesting place to visit. Lots of red lights. This is what we came for. The temperature is staying remarkably low. It's hard to quantify, but the fact that we're driving in the city and have sat at multiple red lights and the car's only at 200 degrees is unbelievable. Because I've been driving this car on a regular basis for 2 years, and I've never seen it in the city below 220. Like, it's always 220 and above. And we have just sat through, I think it was 5 red lights, and it's at 203. Oh, wow, this pigeon's really pushing it. Who's brave? Wow, there's a huge pothole. The Z51 package is not the highlight of city driving. It is definitely not designed for that. I remember 20 years ago, I came down here and I drove through here when I had my Mustang, and I went the wrong way over here and pulled up right next to a cop. God, it's hard to believe that was actually 25 years ago. Yep, right over there. I went the wrong way to do not enter and pulled up right next to a police officer. And he didn't even stop me. He just laughed at me. I wasn't driving like a jerk or anything. I just went the wrong way. All right, so we're sitting at our 6th red light in the city. The car is at 202 degrees. I don't know what other word to say other than unbelievable. It was unquestionably 20 degrees hotter than that at a minimum. A red light. Yay! That's what we came for. You guys are probably pretty tired of hearing that. I gotta get some new material. All right, so we're approaching the MVP Marina, MVP Arena, not Marina, Arena. You probably have a good shot of it right there. This is our 7th or 8th red light in the city, and the car is at 202 degrees. Absolutely epic. What a difference the clean out has made, for sure. This car would be at least 225, 230 right now at an absolute minimum. All right, I'm going to call this part of the test complete. We've been driving around in heavy city conditions for 20 minutes to a half hour. When we got down into the most congested part of the city, the highest the temperature got on the car was 210. I've been sitting here now for about 8 minutes, and we're up to about 214. Historically, this car would be at about 235 right now, maybe 240. Now it's all the way down to the 215 when we're not even driving at all. We're going to jump on the Dunn Memorial Bridge here and see how long it takes it to cool off. We could probably just record this live because I'd be willing to bet it's going to cool off pretty quick. So it went from 210 to 190. Went from 210 to 190 in about a quarter mile of driving, just going over the bridge. And with just a little bit of driving, the car is down to 188. This is after 40 minutes of driving. Normally, this car would be at 220, 225, 230 right now, without a doubt. It is riding cool at 190 degrees. I can't believe it. What an unbelievable difference that clean out made. And now I'm going to do the ultimate no-no. Where is the temperature going to go if I'm just sitting there? So I'm going to let the car sit for about 5 minutes. What we're going to do is head over here to the home base, to Kevin's garage. There we've got the Explorer, vehicle that does all the heavy lifting. I've got to put away some tools for yesterday. I'm going to let the car sit for 5 minutes without moving at all in a parking lot. We're starting off at 198 degrees. What temperature will the car be at 718? We'll come back and see. All right, the car has been sitting here for 5 minutes. It has not budged. It's not moving at all. And the temperature is up to 223. So what I decided to do was let the car sit and run up into the 10-15 minute range in this one spot and wait and see when the secondary fans came on. Got the Camaro hanging out in the background. Stop by the channel. I'll leave a link in the description. Ran this thing a couple times on the quarter mile. Was a ton of fun at the Test and Tune up at Lebanon Valley Speedway. Yep. Okay, so like clockwork, as soon as the car hit 230, the secondary fan kicked on. And let's just see what effect that... Look at that. It's immediately pulling the temperature down. 227, 226, 225, 224, 223. So it will not allow the car to get above 230 now. And as soon as the secondary fan kicks on, I mean, look at that. It went from 230 to 220 in the course of 30 seconds. That's because of cleaning out that radiator. That's the difference that it made. It's down to 215 now. It dropped 15 degrees in about a minute. Look at that. That is absolutely incredible. This car would have skyrocketed above 235. It would have been heading for 240. And when the fans kicked on before, you wouldn't necessarily even see a drop, because the radiator had so much stuff gummed up in it. Now, if you do let the car sit for almost 10 minutes, you will get to 230. And then the secondary fan kicks on, and within 2 minutes, it's pulled the car down to almost 210 degrees. It's dropped 20 degrees. Before, when the secondary fan would kick on, like I said, because it wasn't getting the airflow through, the temperature would just continue to increase. So we've seen a huge difference in driving on the highway of like 35 degrees. We've seen a difference in the city of 20 to 25 degrees. It's kind of hard to put a tab on city driving. The highway driving was pretty easy to look at. The sitting idling in a parking lot is pretty easy to look at. City driving, I think, is a little bit harder, but I think it's safe to say it was running 20 to 25 degrees cooler in the city. And now it is well under temperature control while just sitting here not moving. Whereas in the past, it would be completely out of control. Now, I did change the water pump, but I don't think that that's much of a... because the other water pump wasn't seized, and it was still pumping water. The reason why I replaced it is because it was leaking. So I don't think changing the water pump really changed a lot. That water pump, like I said, was pumping water. It's just that it would leak. And so when I fill the system back up with coolant before, it was operating just like it's operating now as far as flow is concerned. What has changed these temperatures so much to the tune of 20 to 25 degrees in the city and 30 to 35 degrees on the highway, and well under control in an idling situation, was taking that shroud off and cleaning that radiator and radiator compartment. So the results that I seen from doing this were pretty dramatic. On the highway, it dropped from 205 to about 180. And then sitting in a parking lot and just running for an extended period of time, it would reach 230. The secondary fans would come on, and then it would rapidly drop to 210. And then it would slowly creep its way back up to 230. The fans would kick back on, and it would drop it right back down to 210. If your car is not behaving that way, this is surely something that you want to do. You know, and if you're just not someone who has the tools and stuff, bring the car to the mechanic. I mean, this took about 2 hours for me to do. It's not that complicated of a job. You take the shroud off the top of the radiator, you disconnect the connections to the radiator and take it out. If you're not into doing that kind of work, if you really don't work on your car, bring it to a mechanic and have them do this for you. Take the radiator out, and don't be fooled by looking at the back of the radiator, the part you can see from where the fan is. And if you get under the car, like when I did the air dams on the car, you could look up and you could see the front. You were seeing the front of the transmission cooler. Those are not good indicators. The front of the transmission cooler was clean looking. The back of the radiator was relatively clean looking. This is that section in between the two that gets all jammed up, and all kinds of debris actually builds up in the ridges of the engine radiator. And it was really the water. The water was the real key. I mean, the vacuum helped, but when I hit it with the power washer, it just, you know, and I had the radiator sitting backwards, so you're spraying the water in from where the air comes out and just pushing all that debris out of it. The effects of doing this were significant. The car runs dramatically cooler than it ran before, and I would highly recommend that anyone that's not seeing 190 or less on the highway, or not seeing it hit 130 and then the temperature go down to 110, this is probably something that's worth doing on any C4 that hasn't been done. If you get a chance, stop by the channel and click the playlist button. There's a lot of different good playlists in there. There's C4s and movies, C4 historical videos. If you go to C4 General, I just uploaded a video recently on how to actually repair a window regulator for 84 and 85 and 86 cars. I also have a door modification for how to get your door panel to stop popping off on top. And that's for the 84 to 89 cars mostly, although it will work on later cars as well. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up. If you think you'd like to see more, hit subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Kevin's Garage.